All right, so now we're on to the next session, which talks a little bit about, one of the questions we often get is, when's if I really have multiple inventions? I have this invention that I'm describing, that which went through all the detail, but I have other inventions. Can I include those, or should I hold those off in a separate application, or what should I do? Well, there are a couple different options. One, when you have multiple inventions, if it's just a single invention, we can cover it. And what that application and that or for that invention includes, that includes your invention, includes the variations, the design arounds, what you're going to do in the future. You provided us all that detail. It will certainly include that. But if you have multiple inventions, the other thing we can do is we can also file different applications. Now, the temptation is, and definitely get it, is you want to include as much as you can in one application, because then you can, have cost savings. You're not having to split it out into multiple applications. Couple things to consider. If you have multiple inventions, you want to have each patent application focus in on that invention. You want to be able to make sure that you described in all the details, all the design arounds, everything in the future, all the figures, so that when an examiner in the patent office picks it up, he says, I get this invention. I get what you're doing, how it works, where it goes together, and they don't get confused by having multiple inventions. Because at the end of the day, if you include multiple inventions in one application, the examiner is going to make you split it out anyway. You're going to have to do multiple filings, and you're going to be back in the same spot. So one thing is, if you have a single invention, we can do it as a single application. You have multiple inventions, let's separate it out to each of the different applications so that we can get it all the details fully fleshed out. Now, you don't have all the details for the second invention, hold off, or when you get there, let us know, and we can definitely go to. If you don't know, if you're saying, hey, this might be one invention, this might be a couple inventions, let us know. Click on the button, let us know, and we can definitely discuss that and make sure we get it covered either way. Now, let's say you do have a couple inventions. I kind of started to touch on that, but what are the different options? Well, one is to do a provisional patent application. So let's say you have one main invention you really want to get covered today, but there are a couple other things that you're kind of, go along with the whole thing you're trying to cover. You have a couple different inventions. We want to cover this main one, but we have this one that's coming down the pipeline we also want to cover. You can do a provisional patent application. That's a 1-year placeholder, less expensive, gives you ability to have that as a placeholder, go finish the main invention, and then go after that one. We can circle back in a year. So that's one option. The second one is we can do a second non-provisional utility application. We can do 2 full applications. We can cover each of them in their own application, so we can make sure to drive into the detail and separate them out. One of the other things I didn't mention is the benefit of separating it out is, if you're ever going to sell off one of the patents, or you're going to sell off a portion of the company, you're going to license it, or you're going to go to different aspects. Maybe you want to split it into 2 companies. It gives you those options because you're not all tied into one application. So just one other thought. Next thing, so you can do a provisional if you want to do a placeholder for something that's on the side or a different invention. You can do a full separate application. Another option we can do is what's called a continuation in part application. So let's say we file your first application, we get that going, we get it filed, and now you come up with generation 2 or generation 3. You hadn't thought of that before. This is different. It's not the same as what you're doing. You want to add on to it. Problem is once you file an application, it's locked in. What you file as of that date is what you get the application for. Now, a continuation in part, or a CIP patent application, allows you to go in, take the original application, and add to it. Now, what it does is it allows you to, whatever you put in the original application, you get that date of invention for it. Whatever you add into that in the CIP, you get a newer date of invention for that. So it kind of gives you a couple different date of inventions depending on when you add the information. That CIP patent application continuation part, treated like a new application. So now you can add that additional detail. The next thing that you invented to add on to it, we can add that in as a CIP as needs to be. The last thing is sometimes it really just makes sense to include it all in one application. So even though there are multiple inventions, they really all work so closely together that it really makes more sense to talk about that all at the same time, to show how it all works together, how all the inventions go to make a, the sum is greater than the parts type of a thing. And so that one is an omnibus, which really packing multiple inventions into one, and it's a more dense, longer application, has more figures, but allows us to really put multiple applications into one. So that's another option. So if you have a single invention, you can just move on with this section. If you have multiple ones, then we can certainly explore one of these, the options I laid out: provisional, non-provisional, CIP, continuation in part, or an omnibus. Or if you're not sure, let us know. Check that I'm not sure. When we have the call after this, after you fill out this form, we'll go through, we'll talk about it, and make sure it gets covered.